Good afternoon. This is Blooming with Autism on W4WN Radio, and we have an extremely special guest today, which I'm super excited. I'm having a hard time maybe having a thought in my head. Dr. Gil Tippy is on with me. How are you, Dr. Tippy?
I'm very well, thank you, Jody.
I'm so excited that you're here because I know so much about what you are going to talk about, and we have a little bit of I have experience with ABA therapy, and I've seen the difference in the therapy you're going to discuss with a friend of mine's son, and also at the school that my daughter goes to. She's in the autism unit, and there's a class that uses Dr. Greenspan and what you teach, how to teach the I hate when they we call like the lower functioning children, but the children that need a lot of one-on-one help. And right. My daughter used to be more like that, and through being inundated with therapy. She's doing fantastic, but we went a different route. So I'm so interested to hear you speak about the DIR floor time.
Well, I'm so glad your daughter is doing well. That's great. So we're entirely different from ABA therapy. We are a relationship developmental model. I don't know if people know, but DIR is the name of the model, and that's the developmental individual difference relationship-based model. So we're a relationship-based therapy that considers individual differences. That's differences in processing, differences in motor planning, and uses a modality called floor time, which I think most people associate with the Greenspan method or with DIR. And that is play, but it's play with a purpose. So it's play with a developmental model in mind, with the goal of helping kids to move developmentally. So we're really not using reinforcers, outside reinforcers, in order to get kids to do what it is we want them to do. What we're doing is being in a relationship with the kid, finding out what their interests and what they're attempting to accomplish, using those things to really get into a back and forth, this sort of joyful back and forth flow with the kid, and that moves kids developmentally.
And have you worked with ABA, and then when you saw this model, you thought it was more successful? How did you get involved?
Well, I was, for 13 years, I was a classroom teacher in all kinds of different classrooms. Got more and more involved with kids who didn't matter how good a regular classroom teacher I was, and discovered I had to learn more. So I went back and got my developmental master's and then went on to my clinical psychology doctorate. And in that process, I was exposed to Ivar Lovaas. And so as you know, Ivar was the guy who said, hey, we can work behaviorally with kids on the autism spectrum. And he, started a revolution in terms of treatment. So I really was attracted to this lovely, charming guy, Ivar Lovaas. And then I worked hard in the behavioral world for a number of different years, but there was always a piece of the behavioral world that I just could not relate to, even though I was trained by some of the greatest behaviorists in the world. And I realized that there was a relationship piece that was more important. So I got attracted to that part of the behavioral world that was really paying attention to the positive behavioral support side of things. And never forgot my developmental psychology, never forgot my Piaget, never forgot those things. And when I finally got exposed to Stanley, I said, oh, yeah, this is what I've been looking for all these years, and this is what I've been doing. I just didn't know what I was doing, and thank goodness I found the structure to get that support. And I was lucky enough, you probably know, Jody, that Dr. Greenspan consulted on the opening of Rebecca's school, and then consulted for the first 5 years, and he right up to the time when he passed away. And he directly supervised the staff here. He ran case conferences here. He consulted on every single aspect of the program, and he was my direct supervisor for 5 years. So, I was lucky enough to get to know this genius. And so I came through the behavioral world and ended up at DIR.
It's so interesting because we did ABA therapy with my daughter, and there was really nothing else. There was no other real option because she's 10. So,
Right.
She got diagnosed at 20 months, got right on it, started all the therapies right away and did, and then some. And it was interesting because the therapist that did not emotionally connect to her, she would not do the therapy for. She would tantrum majority of the time. The therapists that did emotionally connect to her got her to do so much more. And now, when being that she's very high functioning and working, in a school, she's still in the autism unit. It would be great if there was some type of program from the autism unit to mainstream, because when we put her mainstream, it was just too much. And she's pretty high for the unit. It's like, I'd love to develop a program, but anyway. So the teachers that can get to her emotionally are the ones that really never have a behavior issue whatsoever. And the ones that don't do, so that it makes sense how that for you was the missing component, or like a major missing component was the relationship between the child and the therapist, correct?
Oh, it's so true. I think most of the research will show you that what in fact is mattering is the relationship between the therapist and the kid. So I always say that almost any thoughtful therapy done by loving, caring, warm, connected individuals can move kids. But you need to have a therapy that focuses on moving kids developmentally to really make the most progress. But the truth is, if you're doing ABA therapy and you're deeply connected and you have this joyful, loving, giggly, intense, affect-laden relationship, you're still going to do some good work, because kids want to be connected to, and kids develop in relationship. It's how human beings raise children. So of course you need to have these warm and emotionally meaningful relationships. And for me, it just runs counter to everything that I believe to imagine that, planned ignoring and some of the more punitive things are actually effective with kids. So you can get kids to stop doing certain behaviors, but you're not going to help move them developmentally. So I absolutely think it's the relationship. The other thing you said, Jody, is you'd like to develop a program. Your fantasy is to develop a program for this sort of transition stage.
Yeah.
And that actually was one of the dreams of Dr. Greenspan before he died, and we sat down and started to work on it here at Rebecca School, so that we're actively trying to make this relationship-based transition program for kids who are exactly in the position that your daughter is in. So talk to me more off the air, and we'll sit down and we'll figure out how we can collaborate in some way. It'd be fun.
That would be wonderful. And it's funny, too, because I said to you before getting on air that Jason and I are really close friends, and I've known his son for such a long time. And, he was in public school. You know the story, but he was in public school and was not, having successful time. Yet he was great when I was with him, or he was great when his father was with him, and when his mom was with him. But when he got back into the school environment, it was like deprogramming him by Saturday. By Sunday, started doing better, and then had to go back to school. And I went back up to New York. Was it last year? Yes, last year in June, and I was floored at the change in his son in just a short period of time. And he had sent me some video of, like a small little clip of his son. I think maybe it was maybe a commercial or something. I can't exactly remember what it was for the Rebecca School. And I was And I was just blown away, because it was just fully, and I know you've put this in your blog and everything, and it's just fully child-centered. And right. I remember, because I was an elementary school teacher also, and so I remember when I was teaching, everything had to be child-centered. And, as a culture, we've moved away from that, in a different direction, which with a lot of the children, typical or not, neurotypical or not, it's hindering them because we're not focusing on the individual child, and by especially when there's a deficiency, to focus on the individual deficiencies, because like my daughter is fantastic beyond ridiculous belief. If you can hand her any computer game, any math, anything that she has, science, she was able to put like this they have this program that they're doing in the after school program where they like hand her a box of different pieces and they electrically they're put together and it does like something electrical. Well, she finished hers and then she went around to everybody else in the class and helped them finish theirs. And so we know, and I know being her mom, what her strengths are, and her teachers know what her strengths are, and then to know what the weaknesses are, but to utilize the strengths by doing science maybe more often, but, you know, pulling out the language during science and pulling out the writing and the reading and whatever else, because she can sit for 45 minutes now in a class. So it just, I don't know. I just feel like certain things are like, I get very excited because to me, it's just so innovative that there is a place for these children. And from what I see, you're talking to everybody that will listen about how successful this is. And it just, you know, kudos to you. I just have to say that. Oh,
well, thank you so much. That's probably true that I will go anywhere and talk to anybody, because it's clear to me that this is the way to work. And somehow our society, as you pointed out in general, this is not just kids on the autism spectrum. This is kids, you know, neurotypical kids going to our regular public schools. Well, we've lost the way. We've lost the notion of play. We've lost the notion of child-centeredness. We've lost the notion that we want to develop creative and flexible thinkers as opposed to people who can memorize, you know, stuff for tests and then quickly purge that and then memorize another set of stuff, which is what kids are doing these days, you know, even on the high school level. So it's really, I agree absolutely that we need to be working in this really relationship, child-centered way. So you're right. I talk to almost anybody about this. But it's really a lovely way to work, too. You know, it is so much more fun to work with people when your job is to bring out of them their really great talents and their beautiful skills, as opposed to having a list of things that you've got to get kids to do.
Right.
Which is, you know, you're not having any fun, the kid's not having any fun, there's no beautiful affect attached to that, so there's no actual learning going on. And pretty soon, you know, you end up with burnt-out therapists, burnt-out kids, and it's really difficult. So aside from being supremely effective, it's also just a heck of a lot more fun to do.
I mean, it sounds like it. And the therapists that work with these children, so I know that you have at the Rebecca School, there's OTs, there's speech. So they're all based, they all teach the children based on Greenspan's floor time.
We're an entirely DIR school from top to bottom.
Wow.
We have 120 employees. We have 10 OTs. We have 8 speech and language pathologists, social workers, psychology. We have 5 full-time licensed music therapists. Now, those aren't therapists. Those are not music teachers. They're music therapists. These are people who are trained in an interactive music therapy, which is very similar to DIR, and then it's the Nordoff-Robbins model of music therapy. And then they come here, and then we teach them DIR. So these are music therapists who are using their tremendous improvisational skills to pull back and forth communication from kids who have real language, speech and language difficulties. And then we have 60 TAs and 15 head teachers, and, you know, we're this lively, vibrant staff, and everybody from the custodial staff all the way up through the director, the program director, and me, the clinical director, are doing DIR floor time all day long in every interaction with the kids. So we're an entirely DIR school, and that, I think, is unusual in the field. there are a lot of places that are doing some DIR, or they want to do floor time, or they recognize that relationship matters, and so they're trying to work in relationships with some part of the day. But we're really the only place where we are just top to bottom doing floor time.
And have you, or has your staff, the upper staff, and or board of directors, or whomever makes decisions, have you thought about bringing your school to other states?
Well, the group that owns us is Met Schools, and they have over the years run many other schools, and they are actually looking into bringing the Rebecca model to other places and in other spaces. So yeah, we are always looking, but even outside of that formal relationship, the Rebecca School and all of us who work here will do outreach with anybody. And I just was recently contacted by a school in Canada that said, please, can you help? And, of course we're going to help, because it's clear to us that, it's good for everybody when the DIR model gets more widely known and is done well and done effectively. So we reach out all the time and offer support to other places.
That is great. And you said that you had... all your staff is on board with DIR. Have any of them, have you spoken to any of them and said that, or asked them if they've done ABA, what they notice is different? Like, I always am interested to hear when professionals move from one, I guess, specific way of teaching to another. Have they also noticed the huge difference in the children, how they've are able to maybe come out of their shell quicker? You see they're learning faster or interested in learning?
Well, remember, we're in New York City, so we are in the hotbed of ABA therapies. That we have large national organizations which push ABA as their agenda, which reside here in New York City and which have heavy lobbying influence in our legislature. So almost every staff member who we eventually get here has already been an ABA therapist, or has worked in an ABA model, or came out of their training program here in the New York metropolitan area being trained almost exclusively from an ABA approach. So they all come from that already. And the ones who spent years practicing applied behavior analysis, they've obviously left that field for reasons, and they are very, very happy to be here. We have people seek us out because they just can't do the other therapies anymore, and they're very happy to say all of the positive things that they see. So, I'm a little prejudiced in this direction.
Well,
so I can't be as reasonable about it as I'd like to be. But they always talk about how much more effective they feel the model is, and how much happier the kids are. I can tell you one barometer is that very often we get kids here who have been refusing to go to their programs, whose parents could not get them on the buses to go in the morning, who have to be bribed, and there are real struggles with going to school. And kids generally here have an entire turnaround, that they come through the door much happier and come off the buses ready for school and miss it when we have vacations. And for me, that's always a barometer of how well we're doing, that the kids are really joyfully coming here.
Absolutely. And are the children ability grouped, or is it by age? How do the classrooms, how are those?
Well, it's loosely grouped by age and developmental level. So we think of everything developmentally, and we think of the DIR functional, emotional, developmental milestones and where those kids might be developmentally. And then we group loosely by age and by developmental level. So we have 115 kids in the school.
Wow.
And 15 classrooms, and they range in age from 4 to 21. So kids are obviously grouped loosely by age. It's really not a graded program. It's a developmental level program.
And are there children that, like when I was discussing about my daughter, how she's 10, and I mean, by 18, I can't imagine that there's going to be much that she can't do just because of her her learning curve, it just, she blows me away. She's
That's
the reason
fantastic.
why I do what I do.
Well, we all wish we had mothers who had that intense love and belief in us, and the people who do are the people who do beautifully, right?
Yeah, that's, what? That I agree with that, and it's hard to explain, having that internal passion, what that means, and to function like that daily. But I see it when she, at the end of the school day, she still runs to me and hugs me. I'm like, okay, that was good.
There we go. That's what I needed.
Exactly.
And the truth is that the unbounded faith that developmental challenges actually mean that your developmental window is staying open longer, so we can work longer on things that we couldn't have worked with a neurotypical kid, and you can continue to make progress and continue to grow, and we have no real way of predicting how high you're going to fly.
Right.
And it's that faith, I think, that really drives good therapies.
So have you had children that hit a certain age and they've exited your school because they've done so well? I know
absolutely.
They do.
No, kids leave all the time for less restrictive environments, which is the special education jargon for they go places where they have to have less support.
Right.
That happens all the time at Rebecca School. And, we're a very good place, and I think the world of it, but it's a tribute to Stanley Greenspan and the DIR model that allows kids to really reach potential that they might not have reached.
And how do they get into your school? If there's somebody that's in New York now that's listening that is just blown away by what you're saying, how is somebody able to get into the Rebecca School?
You call the school and you ask for the admissions director and you say, I'm interested, and she'll send you a packet and make an appointment. And I see every single kid for admission to the school. You would come to the school, you take a tour. Liz O'Shea is our admissions director, and she'll take you on a tour. And then you can make an appointment to bring your child in, and I will see you and your child play together. And I know that sounds like it's not much of a admissions interview, but this joyful back and forth between a caregiver and their kid in this pretty unstructured way is what we need to see. Because remember, that's what our intervention is going to be based on, is how high can we help you to go developmentally within the context of this really warm and engaged relationship. So it's a formal test. It's called the Functional Emotional Assessment Scale. But we do it, and it's pretty, we try to make it as pressure-free as possible because we know how nervous parents are and kids are, and we know how hard it is for parents actually to play, particularly when there's somebody sitting there watching them. But we think it's so much more effective than the kind of formal testing that people do, which I don't think is particularly well catered to kids with the wide variety of challenges that our kids have. So after that, we try to figure out, do we have a great place for this kid where the kid will fit in the class and the class will benefit from the kid? And if we've got the place, then we offer admission. And really, it's not so complicated. All you have to do is call the school. At the very least, you could come and take a look and take a tour.
Right. And how
which we run all the time.
How would somebody contact you if they needed your services? Because I know you do things outside of the school as well.
I do. I have a private practice, and you can. I have a website that's Dr. Gil Tippy, all one word, GILTIPPY. .com, and you can go there. But the Rebecca School also has a website. It's RebeccaSchool.org, and you can always call the school and get in touch with me here. I wrote a book with Dr. Greenspan. Respecting Autism is the name of the book, and it just came out in November, and it's about the school and about the things that we do, and it has its own website as well, so you can go to respectingautism.com, and any of those things eventually will link to me if you want to get in touch with me personally. And then I also have my WordPress blog, which it sounds like you've been to, where there are a lot of videos of me just talking about the DIR model and things that we do, and that's Dr. Gil Tippy, one word, .wordpress.com. So
you're busy.
In this beautiful, marvelous technological age, there's a million ways to get in contact with us.
That's awesome. I'm just in awe that I get a chance to speak with you. And
well, I'm very honored that you took the time out to give me a chance to talk.
Absolutely. And I will definitely speak with you about what we were talking about. Like needs to be a step in between, self-contained and then going straight into mainstream. That's great,
Jody. I can't wait to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm a little bit in awe here. And I will definitely be contacting you this week so we can talk.
Great. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. This is Gil Tippy, Dr. Gil Tippy. If you want to contact him, he gave you a million different ways to. Thank you.
Thank you.